We have another question. I want to get involved with the teachings, but I have nowhere to begin. What book should I read? So I get a little cautious about these questions, as if there's one book. You just have to find the one perfect book, and then you can be Buddhist. So what I do is I read a lot, and I realized from this question, it's not the perfect book I found, but it's the perfect quotations. So I tend to highlight books a lot. I'm very visual, and I kind of store and remember quotations that really moved me. And sometimes I read a book that I don't agree with, but I find I learn almost more from that experience because it forces me to really reflect on my understanding. So I wanted to share a couple books with you. Two are practical books for everyday life. One is called Just One Thing, and it was written by Rick Hansen, a PhD. And I double-checked, and it has 52 chapters. So it's organized so week by week, every week, there's one thing you could do. You could be a little bit more mindful for 1 week. You could try listening for a week. You could try being aware of your speech for a week. And so it's a very practical book of integrating simple habits that you could develop week by week. And I think perhaps out of the 52, we should be able to find a handful that really we identify with. And it's something that we could carry on into the future, as I've mentioned, in an effortless grace, full of grace and enthusiasm as we go out into the daily world. Another one that's kind of related to that is the book by Dan Harris, not to be confused with Sam Harris, the atheist philosopher that's always debating someone. But Dan Harris was a newsman at ABC, and quite some time ago he had an anxiety attack on air, and he had to back away from his career. It was breaking him, and he begins to practice meditation. And he makes a very wise statement. Buddhism doesn't revolutionize or reinvent people. It just makes them 10% better. And if you think about that, if you could wait a minute before reacting and then respond calmly, that's 10% better, but it takes you from a C to a B+. We just need to be a little bit better. Just slow down a little bit. We don't have to be perfect, but he found that meditation gave him the tools to kind of stay within his lanes, to stay on the road, to not veer off into the shoulder because somebody used a word that triggered him. And that really, really helped him. There's another book that covers the teachings of the historical Buddha quite well. This is a classic, What the Buddha Taught, by Wapola Rahula. This is a classic book that is relatively easy to read, but it's the best, I think, introductory text to what the Buddha literally taught. So if you want to kind of go to the source, this would be a good book. And then in our school, everybody has a different take on things, a different emphasis based on practice and what is practical and effective. This book is quite good in our tradition. Shin Buddhism, Bits of Rubble Turn into Gold. So this is almost my argument about habits. Effortlessly, bits of rubble become shiny bright when we start to develop new habits, new ways of thinking, new ways of moving through the world with a sense of grace and appreciation and living in the present moment. We're not fearful of the future, and we don't mourn the past, but we stay in the moment and we begin to shine like bits of gold.